I watch a lot of HGTV. How hard could it be, right? I mean, all you gotta do, knock a wall down here, knock a wall down, throw some paint.
But who's knocking down walls and painting? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Life with Lachey, and today I have my husband with me, Milan.
This guy.
AKA the Captain.
What's up?
And today we're coming to you with a video to talk about our home buying process. So we did buy a house about a week and a half ago.
Woo!
We closed on our house, and several of our friends have asked about the process because we went sort of an unconventional route, the 203K loan process. And so we're going to talk about how we landed at that decision and what the process was like for us. So I guess to start, like, home buying is
a beast.
I feel like it was something that we disagreed on in a lot of ways. I think originally for me, like, I was not as pressed to buy a house.
Pressed? Why? What is so?
I'm just saying, like, we had a different timeline. I wasn't in a hurry because, you know, with the timeline of like how academia shakes out, like, we don't know where we're going to be in a few years. And so I didn't feel the urgency. And I also just feel like sometimes people, like, in our generation want to buy a house just to have a house, to say I have a house. And I don't really care about that. I care more about, like, what's the investment looking like? What's the money looking like? So for me, I just wasn't feeling the urgency, but I feel like for you, it was a goal to have a house. So, like, for you, what was the reasoning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there's ever a bad time to buy a house. Maybe, you know, select times, yeah. But for me, just having something that you own, that's yours. If we're going to be living in it, you know, this apartment, we can't do what we want to in this apartment. Like, I can't paint these walls. I can't knock a wall down or something. Can't upgrade appliances to make it how I want it or how we want it.
So you just wanted to make it your own.
Yeah. Have your own space. That somewhere you can call home. I
guess. I don't necessarily still agree with that.
There's other stuff too. I mean, you know, you get the equity, you get the freedom of being able to use your money how you want to use it.
So for equity though, like, not everybody has equity. Like, people who make good home buying decisions have equity. Some people buy a house and it's not a good decision. So for us, that's kind of how we landed there. So I think when we started our home buying search, you know, we looked at a lot of houses on Zillow. It was a great time, saving all the mansions that we were going to live in. Looked at houses on Zillow. We weren't really seeing what we wanted. Up here in Philly, it's like, it's very expensive to buy a house in a good neighborhood. Yeah. So you can buy a house, but if you want to be if you have, like, particulars about the neighborhood you want to live in, then it's gonna run you some money. And I think that was a lot different than what we were used to in the South, where, you know, you get a lot for your money. Like, you get in 3, 4, maybe even 5 bedrooms, several bathrooms for what you would expect to pay for a house. And up here, it's like, the stuff we were finding in our budget was like 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath.
Not what was gonna sustain us.
Yeah, I mean, what we wanted was like $100,000 over our budget, not even a little bit over the budget. Yeah. So he came up with the idea that we should renovate. Yeah. I was not on board.
I watch a lot of HGTV. How hard could it be, right? I mean, all you gotta do, knock a wall down here, knock a wall down, throw some paint.
But who's knocking down walls and painting?
Well, clearly it's not gonna be us, so we're gonna hire a contractor.
Okay, so at the time I didn't know that. So when he said we should renovate a house, I was like, no, sir. I don't have time for this. And aside from that, I feel like when people say they're gonna buy a house and just live in it and do renovations, like, I just feel like the renovations don't happen because it's so burdensome, it's so expensive, and people just let it fall by the wayside. So I wasn't on board with this. I didn't know about the contractor portion of it, where you just hire somebody to do the work. I mean, I've heard of that, but not necessarily during the home buying process. So how did you find out about it?
So, yeah, great question. We had a realtor that I went to college with, RJ Griffin, out here, outstanding guy. He does house flips as well. He renovates houses also. So we're going through this process trying to find our perfect house that was going to be in our budget, and it just didn't exist. And as we're talking about it, RJ says, hey, well, maybe y'all should just renovate. That's what he's been doing, and we can just stay in the house that we renovate. So then he told us about 203K loans and how basically you'd be buying the home as is, and then the renovations are wrapped into the loan. So essentially, the loan that you get has both the renovation amount of money that you want, as well as the home price.
So in other words, there is no hope that I'm going to get rid of these nasty bathroom tiles. There's no hope that I can get rid of these white kitchen cabinets. Like, it's already, the money is there when you buy the house. Exactly. So for me, I was like, check, 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 I'm in. So once I heard that, I was on board. Well, actually, that's not true. I still was not on board, but I was warming up.
She was warming up. It was going up.
I was warming up.
It was going up.
So we went to start looking at houses that need renovations. And so ultimately what we were looking at were full gut and rehab projects. So we went and looked at a few different houses.
Duplexes
we looked at some duplexes at first. That was really what we wanted to do, but the duplexes that we found in the areas that I wanted to live in were just going to be too much to renovate. So we ended up looking at some single family homes that were full gut and rehab projects, and I didn't like any of them. I was walking through and I was not seeing the vision. I was like, no, this is dusty.
Bathroom here, kitchen, your open kitchen there.
Only thing I was thinking is, who living here?
We are.
Not me. So that, I was not on board. And I feel like Milan, poor Milan, because I was just like, no. And then finally, we ended up looking at the house that we actually bought, which is in our same neighborhood, around the corner from where we live. The neighborhood that we're in now is a very nice neighborhood. It is pretty gentrified. It is at the point where it's got yoga studios and smoothie shops, but it's like the property values are really high, and if you don't buy in now, like, you're really at the tail end of when you can buy in. If you don't get something now, you're not gonna be able to afford to live here in another year or so. We were like, let's jump on it, let's do it. We've lived here for a year, we like the area, and so we found the house on a really nice street where pretty much I feel like most of the houses are redone. Some of them are not, but it also had, just like the ones that were not redone, it has like older black neighbors, which I really like, because I just feel like I got my aunties and my uncles around me.
Hey, come on over, y'all.
Come on over, auntie. You know, and I really like that vibe. So it's like a mixed street, which I really like. And when we walked in the house and we walked through, it was really spacious. I like that, and I like the property. If I can be honest, I like the property values in the neighborhood. So I mean, but again, like, going back to my original point, like, I like our apartment. You know, I understand there are benefits, there are pros and cons to home ownership. People always talk about the pros, but they don't never talk about the cons. It's very expensive, and it could land you in a hole if you don't buy wisely. So for me, yes, the money was the biggest, the neighborhood was the number one consideration, and the money was the number two consideration. So once we checked off neighborhood, next thing for me is, yes, money. So property values, essentially, and how much are we going to get back for what we're putting into this house. So I walked through the dusty house, and I was
dusty,
like,
moldy, scaly, slimy,
spiders on the wall.
All of it.
It was awful. But the house, I saw the vision. I finally saw the vision that you had, you know, put forth for us as the leader of the house. As the leader of the house, Milan put forth the vision. You know, I let him be the man and lead the family, and I in turn provide many opinions, provide delegation of tasks. So I'm really like an administrative assistant almost.
More like an overseer.
Some may call it that. Some may call it
assistant.
A helpmate, if you will.
Right,
and so, you know, I really did my part. I pulled my weight, and I gave a lot of opinions. And then when it came time to go under contract on this house, you know, I let Milan do the work. So
yeah, so let's talk about that work though. So there was a lot that goes into this 203K loan process. Now, I didn't have the slightest idea of what went into it prior to, and was very shocked as it was going along, because there was a lot of snags, a lot of hurdles that had to be overcome.
It just seemed like the rug was gonna get pulled from underneath you every single day. So
yeah, it actually, I felt like the rug was pulled under, and then there was another rug that was pulled under. And it just was like a cartoon.
Layers of rugs.
So many rugs. And we got to the last rug, and I'm like, you're not snatching this from underneath my feet. Yeah. So what happened? What had happened was we made an offer. We made an offer, okay? And this offer we put in, the price for the house that they had already was pretty high. And people who were making offers prior to had already been lowballing them, you know, I'll say up to $80,000 below what they were trying to get for. So we were like, all right, well, let's just go in the middle and see what they say. You know, assuming that as soon as we give this particular price, they're gonna like go back and forth with us and say, no, how about this? How about that? So as soon as we gave the price, they were like, next day, yeah, we'll take it. What? Okay.
So what month was that?
That was in July.
July 2020, we went under contract.
July 2020 contract, expecting to close mid-August 2020.
Ambitious. A little ambitious. So what happened after we went under contract?
Great. So after we went in contract, we had to get a contractor. So we had to find people who were going to bid on this work and help us out. Right. So I got 3 recommendations from our realtor, and one was high, one was middle, and one was low. So at first we were like, all right, well, this low number is way too good to be true. We can't do this. We know this guy. He's talking about what it's going to take like a month and a half.
Him a month to do the whole house.
Brother.
For like $30,000. We was like, no. All right.
So we're going between the high price one and the one that was in the middle, and we decided to go with the one that was high. You know, thinking you're getting what you pay for, right? Get what you pay for. Or what we thought. In this 203K loan process, you have to have what you call a Hud Consultant. And the Hud Consultant is basically looking out for us and trying to make sure that the contractors don't take advantage, that they can do what they say they can do. They go through the house and say, hey, this can actually be renovated for X amount of dollars. And if the contractor's proposal comes back too high above or too low below, then he scraps it, sends it back, and say, you got to come with something else. So when we went with the high guy, they started to butt heads.
Yeah. So first of all, the high guy we were getting less of what we wanted. So in terms of finishes, we were like cutting stuff to try to make his numbers work. Like, okay, well maybe if we just had carpet on the top floor instead of the whole house, or maybe if we, you know, didn't have just budging on stuff we didn't want to budge on to make it work, because he had done a lot of projects. We saw his work. We knew he would get it done on time. Yeah. So when very efficient. Mm-hmm. When he put his report in with all his numbers, the HUD consultant and him were not getting along. The reason they weren't getting along was because whatever numbers he had in the different categories didn't match up. And the HUD consultant was like, bro,
he was calling them out. He was calling them out like every step of the way. Like,
so they're fighting. They fighting. So at this point, you know, our closing date is getting pushed back and back because we're waiting on these numbers from the contractor to match up with the numbers from the HUD consultant. And since they can't come to an agreement, every day going by, they're fighting, going back and forth, back and forth. Our closing date is getting pushed. So we ultimately decide to go with the middle price contractor, who was also highly recommended by our realtor. And so, you know, he was able to get the numbers in fairly quickly. Then we sealed the deal with him. So what happened next?
So with him, we were able to get, you know, those finishes that we wanted. Some of the upgrades that we really wanted to have. But once we got him on board and the HUD consultant signs off on his particular proposal, he sends it to our lending company. Now, since it took so long, for them to agree on the final numbers, the first lending company that we got, they said, too late.
So our closing date is pushed, and we have to find a new lender.
And we got to find a new lender. So now we're scrambling, and our lender that we had before, he actually recommends us to someone else. So it didn't actually take as long for us to find that other lender, but it kind of put us back at square one with the lending process. So I had to submit everything over and over and over again so that he had all of the stuff that he needed. Once we finally get the numbers right, they send it in for appraisal. Now this is where we got a little excited.
So they go and do appraisal on the house. Basically, for those of you who don't know, appraisal is basically where they go in and they look at the house and they basically tell you what your house is worth.
Yep.
So for a 203K loan, the appraisal includes the renovations as if they were already done. So right now the house is just basically a haunted house, but they're appraising it not on the spooky part of it, but also like imagining what would be done if the contractor does all these things that he says he's gonna do. And so when the appraisal number came back, we were like, alert.
Alert. Hey, wait a second. This is ours?
Yeah, the numbers were really good when the appraisal came back. So that was great. That
awesome.
Put a smile on our face. So once the appraisal came back and it was looking good, then the next step was?
Yeah, so after that, then we get the closing disclosures, right? So the lender, he's going through this process of making sure my income is verified, the money is in the bank. We get to the closing and we're sitting there and we're talking and time is going on. And it's taking like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and there's no loan documents in front of us.
Yeah, the lender hadn't sent over the documents. Was it the lender?
Well, the lender was there, so it was like the underwriter person.
Okay, the underwriter. Somebody didn't do their job and send the documents over before they left the prior evening. So we just sitting at the table waiting,
killing time,
and there's no documents. So finally, the documents come. We sign. The house is ours. It's ours. From the time that we closed, or we went under contract in July 2020, we closed on this house October 2020. That's how long it took us to get the closing. Our closing date was moved 2 or 3 times. And the whole time that we're moving the closing date, the seller of the house, who apparently is a millionaire that just has a lot of properties, is giving us so much pushback. If you move this date again, we're going to take the house and we're going to sell it to somebody else because other people are showing interest in this house and making really nice offers way above what we were offering.
Way above what we offered.
And so we're just on edge the whole time, mostly him, because I'm just like, what will be. Que sera. But he is stressed out to the max. So every day I'm like, just relax. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. We have a house. We're not homeless.
2 more gray hairs in my head. I had to take them out.
You are old, so that is to
That's
be
enough.
expected.
That's enough out of you.
But overall, I feel like the process was stressful. But here's some key things that I think we want to highlight, because some of our friends, when we close, we're kind of like, this is a massive project. Like, you're really brave, or I couldn't do that, or I want to come help. So number one, we're not planning to do much labor at all. Like, truly,
we're painting.
There might be a couple little projects that we take on, but for the most part, we are just overseeing from around the corner. Like, we just going in to drop off cookies and see how things are going. The other thing is, with the 203K loan process, there are a lot of fail-safes sort of built into the process to make sure that you make it to the end. So, the reason they give you a HUD consultant is to make sure that what you've set forth is reasonable to happen. On top of that, they require contingency to be included in that loan amount. So if you're pre-approved, if you're pre-approved for, let's just throw out a number, $300,000. That $300,000 includes the price of the house as it is, the renovations for that house, and contingency money. So all of that money has to fit into whatever your pre-approval amount is. So that contingency money is like what, 15 to 20%, 10 to 20%?
Yeah, 10 to 20% on average. I think ours is 15%.
Okay, and that money is basically like just in case whoops got your money. So I don't know if y'all watch Love It or List It. When Hillary goes in the basement and she's like, Actually, your basement is flooded from 1985, and because of that, you'll never be able to walk in here again. So we have to fix the basement. That's going to cost us $100,000, and because of that, you can no longer have your bedroom, your bathroom, or any other part of the house. So contingency money is meant to sort of fill in those gaps if something comes up. In our case, the whole house is being gutted in rehab, so we're already anticipating everything being done.
Yeah.
We know there's mold in the house. We already know we got to do mold remediation. Everything must go. So we're not really planning on using contingency money unless we want to use it for upgrades. Yeah. So I say that to say maybe we are a little brave and ambitious, but I think, you know, the fail safes are there, and I don't think it's as brave as some of y'all think it is.
Also, there's another fail safe. When you get a 203K loan, instead of paying the mortgage while you're living wherever you are, you can wrap the mortgage in the loan. Yeah. So while they're renovating it, the loan is still being paid, and we don't have to pay both our rent and our mortgage at the same time. Once the renovation is done, then we start paying. But up to 6 months, you can wrap mortgage payments into the loan. So that helps us a great deal also.
So we'll be staying here right where we are until this project is done. The estimated completion time is 3 to 4 months. So we're hoping that we stay on time and we're able to move in the new year pretty quickly, sometime in February. If things go wrong or not as planned, we're planning to record the process and take you along the journey. So we'll show it. And, you know, if this is, I know some people said this is a journey they're planning to take. So maybe you'll learn from our mistakes, but we're hoping that it will go smoothly and we won't have any issues. So just stay tuned. If you've done a 203K loan before and you have advice, drop them below in the comments. If you want to do a 203K loan and you have questions, or maybe you just want to buy a house in general and you have questions, drop them in the comments and let us know. Make sure before you go, you like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Peace.